Greetings and welcome to Learn What's New in macOS Monterey, a video tutorial from the MacU.com. Monterey is version 12 of macOS and brings a variety of new features to the Mac, including focus modes, the ability to AirPlay audio or video to your Mac, live text and photos, a new option for tabs in Safari, tab groups, updates to messages, notes, reminders, maps, iCloud, and more. All of those will be covered in this tutorial. For a selection of more general lessons on the overall use of your Mac, check out our macOS Core Concepts tutorial. And with that, let's get started with focus modes. Focus is a major addition to macOS Monterey and iOS 15 that expands the Do Not Disturb feature. Rather than only being able to activate Do Not Disturb in order to block calls and notifications, we can now have multiple focus modes that can include a Do Not Disturb mode, but also personal, work, sleep, and custom-built focus modes. On the Mac, focus is coupled with notifications here in System Preferences. Focus modes are accessed from the menu bar or control center. I currently have 3 available focus modes: Do Not Disturb, Driving, and Personal. Notice at the bottom of the window that I have Share Across Devices activated here. This means that any focus modes that I have set up on my iPhone or iPad are going to be available here on the Mac. And when one of these focus modes is activated on those devices, it will be applied to my Mac as well. In the Do Not Disturb focus mode, notifications are going to be allowed from only a single person, Mike B, and from one app, Calendar. All other notifications will be blocked. I have this Do Not Disturb focus mode set to activate automatically every night from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. or while I'm using the Books app on any of my devices. Of course, these rules only apply when the focus mode is activated, which can be done from here in System Preferences, from Control Center, or by asking Siri. So now let's add a new focus mode. I'll click the Add button down here, and notice that we have some preset names for focus modes, or I'm able to create a custom one. I'm going to add one for Work. Let's start setting this up from the Options button. In here, we can allow or disallow time-sensitive notifications from all apps, calls from anyone, only those in my contacts, or only those in my favorites, and finally, repeated calls. For this work focus, I'm only going to allow the repeated calls option. Now let's add some people that will be able to contact me when this focus mode is activated. I'm going to add everyone in the Swanson Digital contact group. These are the 4 people I'll need to be able to respond quickly to while this focus mode is active. So I'll select all of them and click Add. Next, we can add individual apps. I'm going to allow notifications to come through from the Calendar app, Reminders, and ScreenFlow when the work focus is turned on. Below, we can set up when this focus will turn on automatically. We're able to do this with a time-based schedule, by location, or when you're using a certain app. It's possible to set up multiple time-based automations. So I could enter when I'm at the office most often during the week, and then maybe add a separate automation only for Fridays. With the location-based automation, we can simply set the focus to activate while we're at a specific location, such as our work or home address. These two options are being pulled from my contacts card, which contains an entry for each of these locations. Finally, we can have a focus mode turn on automatically when a certain app is being used. When I'm utilizing the app ScreenFlow, I usually don't want any interruptions. So I'm going to add it here. We can turn these parameters off or on using the checkboxes to their left. If Share Focus status is activated below, anyone trying to send me an iMessage will be able to see that I have notifications silenced at the time. Unless, of course, that person has been added in the allowed list above. In that case, they won't see the notifications silenced alert. So that's an overall look at how focus modes operate. These can provide for a wide variety of options for how your Mac and other Apple devices will act at certain times or in certain locations. Focus provides a lot of options and flexibility. For more on using Focus on your iPhone and iPad, take a look at the Focus lesson in the What's New in iOS 15 tutorial. Live Text is a system-wide feature in macOS Monterey that lets us select and copy text that is detected within a photo or an image file. Let's start in the Photos app. There's text, phone numbers, and a web address on this real estate for sale sign. From here in Photos, all this text can be selected with a simple click and drag, just as if this were a text file or a web page. I can now copy that text and paste it into another document or text field. Right-click on the selected text for Lookup, Translate, and Share options. If there's a phone number, web address, or email address found, we can hover over it and click the down arrow that appears to call, text, or add this number to a contact. For the web address, we're able to quickly open that link in Safari. This will work great with screenshots as well. In this screenshot of a Twitter post, I can quickly select and share the text via iMessage or email. Live text is available in a variety of apps. Here in Safari, I have an image of a menu. Notice that this is a JPEG file, not a Word document or a PDF that would typically have selectable text. But as I hover over it, anytime the text cursor appears, like so, we're able to click and drag to select the text. So if I wanted, I could copy and paste this entire menu into TextEdit. Or I could just get the description of a couple dishes. If I save this file onto my desktop and then open it in the Preview app, we're still able to select and copy the text. As of now, live text won't work in third-party photo editing apps like Pixelmator Pro or Photoshop. Live text can also be translated. This sign is in Japanese, but I'm able to select the text, then right or control-click on it and choose Translate. That will translate the sign to English. To translate to a different language, just select from this menu. Live text also works great in iOS 15, so be sure to take a look at that lesson in the What's New in iOS 15 tutorial. In macOS Monterey and iOS 15, the Photos app can now identify objects such as plants, certain animals, landmarks, books, works of art, and more. So let's go through a few examples. Visual lookup occurs automatically. If the Photos app has recognized an object in an image, the info panel icon will change from the normal eye with a circle around it to one with a couple stars or sparkles added. Click on the info button and the panel will pop up as expected. But over on the image, a small icon appears. In this case, it shows a leaf icon letting me know this plant has been identified. Click and a summary of the plant comes up that's provided by Wikipedia. You will need to have an active internet connection for this to work correctly. Scroll down for more information and a link to the full Wikipedia entry. This works well with dogs, but not really other animals. Visual lookup identifies this golden retriever, but it won't ID this fox or this eagle. In this image, it's able to identify this lighthouse. For landmarks like this, the visual lookup icon is moved to the lower right for some reason. Landmark identification seems to work best with man-made structures. I would have thought a famous natural landmark like Grand Prismatic Spring in Yellowstone would be able to be identified. But so far, visual lookup doesn't seem to work with landmarks in this category. I'm sure as time goes on, a larger variety of items will be identifiable. Finally, here we have a photo of a book cover. Click the icon for basic information on the book and suggested websites. Click at the top here to jump into the Apple Books app where the digital version of this book can be purchased. So visual lookup, along with live text, are both great new features that add a lot of utility to the Photos app in macOS Monterey and iOS 15. Photo collections in the Messages app will appear when someone sends you multiple images in one message. In this case, I've been sent 5 photos. Previously, these photos would appear in line, one after another vertically. But now they get stacked and appear sort of like a hand of cards. Hover over the collection and swipe on your trackpad with 2 fingers to move through the stack. If you're using a magic mouse, you'll be able to swipe with 1 finger. In the upper left, it lets us know how many photos were sent in the collection. Click this to see them all in a grid. Double-click one to expand that image. To return to the collection, click the back arrow here. Click and hold on an image in the collection to quickly send a tapback or enter a reply to that specific photo. To the right of the collection, we have a download button. This gives us the option to import all 5 of these photos into my photo library at once. To just import a single photo from the collection, right or control click on the top image and choose Add Photos to Library. That's only going to import this top photo, not all 5 in the collection. This saying photos seems to be a typo. Over in the Photos app, we can now see that that photo has been imported. And in Messages, it lets us know one of the 5 photos in this collection has been saved to my Photos library. Of course, we can also simply click and drag to save one of the images to our desktop or drop it into another app. So photo collections should make it easier to view and manage large batches of images that are sent all at once. This is going to work and look very much the same with the Messages app in iOS 15 as well. Shared with You is a new feature that aggregates links and attachments sent to you within the Messages app into the proper apps on your Mac. In this conversation, I've received a link to a podcast, a link to a web page, and a link to an Apple News article. I could double-click on any of these and the link would open in the proper app on my Mac, either Podcast, Safari, or News. But if I don't have time to review these right now, they're going to be available within each of these apps with Shared With You. So let's jump into podcasts. In the Listen Now section, there is now a Shared With You area right below Up Next. This is only going to appear if a podcast link has been shared with you in Messages. I could start listening to an episode of this podcast right here, or click on the From Drew button, and it will jump me into the conversation and message that the link is referred to in the Messages app. Right-click on this From button, and we can either remove the Shared With You link or reply in Messages. Now let's jump into Safari. If I open the sidebar, we have a Shared With You section here under Received Links. This is where I'll find the link to the iPhone case that was sent in Messages. Again, I can jump to that message or quickly reply with a click or right-click on the From button. In the News app, we get a similar Shared With You section in the sidebar. So it works pretty similarly in each app. Shared With You can work in a total of 5 apps: News, Photos, Podcasts, Safari, and TV. We're able to control if Shared With You will work app by app in the Shared With You section of Messages Preferences. If you'd rather not have these Shared With You links appear in one or any of these apps, they can be deactivated here. We're also able to turn the feature off entirely. We can also turn off Shared With You for only a certain conversation. So with this conversation selected here in Messages, I can go to the Conversation menu and just uncheck the Show in Shared With You option. As you start getting more and more links from different conversations, pinning the ones that you definitely want to come back to later can help. When I pin a link or attachment in Messages, it will then appear at the top of the Shared With You section for that app. So if I receive 10 Safari links in Messages, but pin just one of them, the pinned link will appear first, even as new links are coming in. So Shared With You is a nice way to keep track of and be able to quickly reply to shared content that comes in from the Messages app. In Safari, we can now use a streamlined and more compact tab bar. Currently, I have 4 tabs available in this Safari window. I can click on each to jump to them. But notice there's no dedicated address bar. The tabs themselves are also unified address and search bars. So from any one of these, I can enter a new web address or perform a web search. We can still add a new tab with the plus button over here, or using the shortcut Command T. Just click and drag to rearrange the tabs. Hover over a tab and click the X to close it, or use the shortcut Command W. Within each tab while it's selected, there's going to be a reload button, a reader view button if the page supports it, and an ellipsis button with share, bookmark, and translation options. So this keeps the Safari toolbar as compact as possible, allowing for more of the web page content to be visible, which can be really beneficial on Macs with smaller displays. But if you don't like this setup, we can easily switch back to the traditional look from the Tabs section of Safari Preferences. Choose the separate option here, and we get the unified address/search bar on top and all of the open tabs visible below it. As I click on each tab, that page's address appears above. With this option, Reload, Reader, and Translate options are only available from up in the address bar. Notice that the separate option makes the Safari toolbar about twice as tall, which could make a difference if you're using a MacBook Air or a smaller MacBook Pro. Next up, we'll look at tab groups. Tab groups are an interesting new feature in Safari that will let us save a set of multiple web pages as a group that can be given a custom name and then accessed from the Safari sidebar. Tab groups work on iOS as well and will sync between your devices via iCloud. So from here in the Safari sidebar, you can see that I already have 2 saved tab groups. If you've already viewed the tab groups lesson for iOS 15, you'll recognize these. Click on the Sports News group and the 3 tabs saved are loaded. Click this button for an overview of all the tabs in each group. Click the Travel Sites group to see its tabs. We're able to add or remove tabs from these groups, as well as rearrange the tabs. At the top of the Safari sidebar, I can quickly return to the 4 Safari tabs that I had open, but are not saved as a group. This is probably where you'd browse sites that you don't plan to return to on a regular basis. But if I do end up with a set of tabs here that I'd like to save as a new tab group, I can do so from the New Tab Group button here or from up in the File menu. In this case, I want to select a new tab group with these 4 tabs. That moves those tabs into the tab group section of the sidebar, and I can give that group a name. Now above, only one tab is open and it presents my start page. We can also create a new empty tab group. From here, I can now name the group and then navigate to the tabs that I want to include in it. I'll make this one a shopping tab group. Click and drag over in the sidebar to rearrange the tag groups list. Right-click to rename a group, delete it, or quickly jump to a specific tab within it. It's possible to move tabs to groups in the sidebar or move them between groups. To quickly cycle through your tab groups when the sidebar is hidden, use the shortcut Shift-Command down or up arrow. So utilizing tab groups is just another way to organize the web pages that you visit most often, along with bookmarks, favorites, and the start page. I can see creating a tab group just for bills and banking sites, or maybe a tab group of pages that I only tend to visit when in a certain location, such as my office or a family member's place. Quick Notes are a new feature in macOS Monterey and iPadOS 15 that will allow us to quickly start a new note or add to a note without first going into the Notes app. There are 2 ways to bring up a quick note on the Mac: via the keyboard shortcut Function Q or a hot corner. The Function or FN key is in the lower left of your Mac keyboard. Pressing Function Q will bring the current quick note to the center of the display. To set a quick note hot corner, we need to go into the Mission Control System Preference pane and then click on the Hot Corners button here. I already have quick note set as the lower right hot corner command. You can use the menus here to set quick note to appear in whichever corner you like. So now to execute that, I just need to bring my cursor down to that lower right corner. Doing so displays the upper corner of the quick note. Click then to open it. Within this quick note panel, we're able to add text, create lists, tables, add links, and other media, just like when working on a note within the Notes app. Click the Add Link button, and the currently open page in Safari will be displayed. Click Add Link, and the link with a preview image is placed within the note. Close the quick note, and it's saved in a Quick Notes folder within the Notes app. Currently, each time I access Quick Notes, the previous Quick Note appears, which is why the Quick Note I first created on my iPad keeps coming up. Unfortunately, there's no easy way to add a new Quick Note from here. If I use the shortcut Command N, a new standard note is created that will be saved in the All iCloud folder here in Notes. From Notes Preferences, we can turn off the Resume Last Quick Note option. So now, when using the Quick Note shortcut or hot corner, a new blank Quick Note is presented. This will be saved alongside my other Quick Notes in the Quick Notes folder. From within Safari, we can add selected text to a Quick Note that will be linked back to the page that it was selected from. So in this travel article that covers 9 different locations, maybe I only want the information on Chile. So I can select that text, then right-click and choose Add to Quick Note. That places the text that I selected in the note as a clickable link, so I can easily access the article when needed. Just double-click from here in the note to then open that page again. Older Quick Notes can be edited, shared, or deleted from here within the Notes app. We can also move Quick Notes to other folders in the Notes app by drag and drop. The Notes app has some new collaboration features that can be used with shared notes or shared folders. So I'm going to share this note with Drew and bring up his iPhone. Once he accepts that invite, we can see that it's shared here in the Notes app for Mac. If Drew then adds some text and a link to the note from his iPhone, that will sync to the note on the Mac as well. Click here on the Share button and we can show all activity. This displays exactly what's been added or edited and by who. Select Show Highlights, and the name of each person that made a change, along with a timestamp, are displayed to the left. Warren's contributions to the note appear in yellow, Drew's appear in blue. Now let's add a mention. For this, I'm going to first type the @ symbol, which brings up a list of everyone that this note is shared with. I'll select Drew and enter what I want to draw his attention to. On his iPhone, Drew will get an alert since he was specifically mentioned in the note. Obviously, mentions will work better with notes that are shared with several people rather than only between 2. Notice that mentions appear in the activity list and in highlights. So these features can be great for a family or a team of coworkers to plan a trip together or work more closely on a joint project. Tags are a new feature available in the Notes and Reminders apps that provide a quick way to categorize or organize notes or reminders. These tags are different than the tags that we can use in the Finder in macOS or the Files app on iOS. Those tags can be applied to files and folders. Tags and notes are applied simply by placing a hashtag symbol at the start of any word or term. Here in the sidebar, we can see a couple tags that have already been applied. I just have two, Home Depot and Projects, which I applied using Notes for iOS. Tags will sync between your devices via iCloud. Click on a tag to view the notes that it's contained in. Click on multiple tags to only see notes that contain all the selected tags. Click again to deselect and see all your notes again. So now let's create a new note from this article in Safari. I'm going to save this note into my travel folder, but also apply the tag road trip. I'll also add this tag to another note that refers to road trip. So now when I select that tag, both those notes will come up. As more tags are added, we can create smart folders that will only contain notes with a certain set of tags. If I create one that contains the Home Depot and Project tags, it will create the folder, and only the note or notes that contain both of those tags will appear within it. If I add both those tags to another note, it will immediately appear in that smart folder as well. Tags work very much the same in reminders. When you're creating or editing a reminder, we have an Add Tags field. For a few of the reminders in my home list, I'm going to add the tag Chores. That will add a tag section into the sidebar, and I can then click on them just like in Notes to view the reminders that contain each tag. As you add different tags and reminders, smart lists can be created, which are similar to smart folders in Notes but actually more powerful. When you're adding a new list, just check the Make It into Smart List box. Then in this menu, we can create smart lists using tags, but also utilize other parameters like date, time, location, and more. To apply multiple parameters to a list, just click the Add button here. I'm going to make a smart list that contains the chores and vacation tags, plus are assigned a high priority level. So for those that have a lot of notes or reminders, having the ability to utilize tags as well as smart folders or smart lists can really help with quickly being able to access only the items that you need to see at a certain time. The Apple Maps app for Mac and iOS has been continuously improved and updated since its first appearance several years ago. The first change in Maps most will notice that there are now 4 different map view options. There's a new Explore view which displays more locations and details other than roads. No traffic conditions are presented in this view. Explore is going to be best when you're walking around a city or when you're planning a visit. The driving view will display traffic conditions, and overall it will focus more on streets, roads, and highways than locations and landmarks. The transit and satellite views are mostly unchanged. My favorite new feature in Maps are the new place cards. These are what will come up when you've searched for a town, city, or landmark in Maps. So if I do a search for Phoenix, a place card comes up that shows me the population, elevation, area of the city, along with some photos and a summary of the city from Wikipedia. Larger cities like this one will have guides available as well. But place cards will work for really small towns too. If I enter Wellsburg, Iowa, we get the same details and summary, just no photos or guides. Place cards are also available when we search for things like mountain ranges, landmarks, and attractions. These make maps a better place to do research on an upcoming trip or destination. With macOS Monterey and iOS 15, we can now AirPlay video and photos, or mirror the screen of iOS devices to a Mac. Currently, I have a single Finder window open on this Mac's display. If we bring in my iPhone and open Control Center, we have a screen mirroring button. When I tap on this MacBook Pro appears as an available screen mirroring location, along with the Apple TV in my living room. If you're not running both iOS 15 on the iPhone and macOS Monterey on the Mac, this won't appear as an option here. Tap on the iPhone display will appear here on my Mac screen. Everything I do on the iPhone is going to be reflected on the Mac display. Move the cursor to the upper left corner and we're able to close the mirroring session, or in this case, switch to the MacBook Pro's built-in display. Currently, the iPhone is being mirrored to my external 27-inch monitor. If I jump into the Photos app while mirroring and then tap on a photo or video to expand it, the iPhone's going to switch to AirPlay rather than mirroring. This will present the photo or video in full size on the Mac's display, rather than how it's shown on the iPhone. When I exit back to my photo library or a home screen, the mirrored iPhone display returns. If you're using an app that works in landscape orientation on the iPhone, such as Safari or Notes, that will be reflected on the Mac when the iPhone is rotated. Return to Control Center to stop the mirroring session from the iPhone. Now if I re-enter the Photos app and open a photo or video, then go to the Share button and AirPlay, the Mac is again an option, and I can play this video on the Mac display in full screen. But when I then close out of the video on the iPhone, the AirPlay session just ends. It doesn't return to the mirrored iPhone display like before. So screen mirroring from your iPhone or iPad to a Mac will work differently than when you choose to AirPlay media from an iOS device to a Mac. Of course, AirPlay also works with just audio. So if you have a nice pair of speakers connected to your Mac, it's now easy to AirPlay music from an iPhone or iPad to those speakers through your Mac. iCloud Plus is the new name for paid iCloud accounts. We're still able to have a free iCloud account that includes 5 gigabytes of storage. But now with iCloud Plus, you'll get that extra storage along with some new privacy features like Hide My Email and Private Relay. If I jump into the Apple ID System Preference pane and the iCloud section, we can see that I have the 50 gigabyte iCloud Plus plan for this account. Click Manage to view the plan options. The 50 gigabyte iCloud Plus plan is 99 cents a month. iCloud Plus is also going to be included when you sign up for an Apple One bundle, which will also include Apple services like Apple Music, TV Plus, Arcade, News Plus, and Fitness Plus. With an active iCloud Plus account, we'll have Private Relay and Hide My Email sections available here in iCloud Preferences. So let's start with Private Relay. Activating this is going to hide the IP address of my Mac and encrypt all its connections in order to prevent anyone, even Apple, from knowing both who you are and where you're connecting to on the internet. This removes the ability of any entity from being able to profile or track your activity from end to end, including your internet service provider. Click on the Options button and we can choose to maintain our general location or set it to be even more broad by only making available the time zone and country that the Mac is in. With general location on, when visiting a website, it will be allowed to know the city or region that I'm in. Switch to country and time zone, and the location info allowed won't be as accurate. Whichever of these you decide to select, when you're on a website that would like to access your location, we're still going to get the option to allow it to have that information. Clicking Allow here will let this site know that I'm in Boise, Idaho. Again, no matter what option is selected in Private Relay. Next, we need to check if Private Relay is activated for the current network connection, which in my case is my home Wi-Fi network. So I'm going to go out to the Network Preference pane, and here in the details for my Wi-Fi network, we have a checkbox for Private Relay. This needs to be activated here, as well as in iCloud settings for Private Relay to work. If you regularly have your Mac on different Wi-Fi networks, say one at work, one at home, or one at a family member's, you need to remember to activate Private Relay for each of those. So far, having Private Relay on has not noticeably slowed or impacted the speed of my Wi-Fi network. So unless you prefer to have your browsing activity tracked by your ISP and the sites you visit, this is a pretty nice option for iCloud Plus users. Hide My Email is another great privacy feature that comes with an iCloud Plus membership. It lets us create and use randomized iCloud email addresses rather than our dedicated iCloud email address. For this account, my email address is themacu@me.com. The macu@icloud.com will also work. The main way that most of us are going to use Hide My Email is when signing up for a website account or mailing list. Here on Target.com, I'm on the sign up page for their weekly offers email. So I can enter my name, and then when it gets to the email field, I'm able to autofill either my saved email addresses, or I can choose to use Hide My Email. Click and a panel comes up with a randomized email address. If you don't like the address presented, click this Reload button to regenerate another address. Below, I could add a note for this address that will help remind me what it's being used for in the future. So I'll enter Target Add Emails. Click Use and that address is entered. It will then be available to autofill in the Verify Email field below. Click Sign Up, and I'm all set. When Target sends out their next ad, it's going to be sent to the randomized address, but forwarded to my actual iCloud email address. Here's their confirmation email. Up in the To field, Hide My Email is displayed with the randomized address. Target has not seen my actual email address at all. Click on the Options button next to Hide My Email here in Preferences, and we can view all our randomized Hide My Email addresses and the websites that they're associated with. Here's the one for Target that we just set up. We can see the randomized email, the email address it will forward to, its label, and note. Here at the bottom, we're able to deactivate the address. So if I'm getting too many emails or starting to get spam sent to this address, I can stop all email being sent to it and getting any in my inbox here. Deactivating an address moves it into this Inactive Addresses section. And here we're able to reactivate any of the addresses or delete them permanently. Back in Hide My Email options, notice that we have an Add button here. With this, we can add a new randomized address that's not going to be associated only with a certain website. This will then allow me to send this address to another person or business rather than my actual email address. When they send email to it, it will come into my normal iCloud email inbox, but if I start getting too many emails or spam emails from them, I could again just deactivate the address. Utilizing these randomized addresses to sign up for email newsletters or create accounts on various websites, rather than using the email address that's directly associated with your iCloud account, not only will cut down on junk email, but it allows us to see which of our randomized addresses are being spammed. Knowing that will inform us as to what websites, apps, or individuals have passed those addresses on to other email marketers, either on purpose or by accident. Hide My Email is a great new feature for iCloud Plus users. In System Preferences, we now have a Passwords pane. To view it, the user account password is going to be entered, or Touch ID can be used if available on your Mac. In here, we can view all our saved logins and passwords. There are a couple ways in which logins will get saved here. First, when creating an account on a website in Safari or in a certain app. In this case, I'm creating an account on bestbuy.com. Notice that I'm using Hide My Email for the associated email address and a strong password that's being suggested using Safari's privacy tools. When that account is created, its login and password is saved here in my Passwords Preference pane. Notice that we're able to view the password by moving the cursor over it. Items can also be added here if iCloud Keychain is turned on in your iCloud preferences. With this activated on my other Macs or iOS devices, when logins and passwords are created on those devices, they're going to sync via iCloud and be available on this Mac as well. Over on my iPhone, we have the same list here as I do on the Mac in the Passwords section of the Settings app. If this passwords list seems familiar, it probably should. This is essentially the same list that has been and continues to be available in the Keychain Access app that's built into every Mac. I'm able to do a quick search for my new Best Buy login here and see that it's the same as over in the Passwords Preference pane. So the Preference pane is just an easier, more straightforward place to manage passwords here on your Mac. Notice at the top of my list here are several security recommendations for certain accounts. These alerts will appear if the password used in the account is too simple, has been used repeatedly, or has been involved in a data leak. If this is the case, it recommends to change the password, which can be done on the website for each account. I would just need to log in here and go through their password update process. If you'd rather not have your Mac monitor your passwords for security issues like these, that can be turned off down here. To quickly locate login information for a certain site, just do a search up here. If you find old accounts or passwords in here, we can delete them by selecting it and then clicking the minus button down here. We can share individual logins and passwords, but only via AirDrop. If you currently use or you formerly used a third-party password management app, such as 1Password, these import and export commands will allow us to move passwords from here to that third-party app, or vice versa. So this preference pane brings Mac password management more in line with how it operates on iOS devices. And it makes it even more convenient if you sync using iCloud Keychain between all your Apple devices. We now have system-wide translation for several languages available in macOS. This allows us to select text in pretty much any web page, document, or image and instantly translate it. Let's start out in Safari. So here I could use the website translation feature to translate this entire page. This first came along in 2020 with macOS Big Sur. But now we can also just select a piece of text in here, then right or control click and choose Translate. That brings up a translation panel. The German text is translated to my preferred language, which is English. On the right side of the panel are play buttons that will allow us to listen to the selection in either German or English.
Wie zählt man auf Deutsch? Wie heißen die Lebensmittel?
How do you count in German? What is the name of the food? How do you say the time in German?
Click here to copy the English translation. I could now open a different app and paste that into a note or any text document. Now let's try this in the Preview app with a PDF. Again, I can just click and drag to select the text, then right-click and select the Translate option. From this menu, we can choose what language the text is being translated to. So if I wanted to see this in German or Japanese, I could. Now let's jump into Pages. The text in this document is in Italian. If I select Translate, we get the same panel but with a new option. In text editing apps like Pages, Notes, or TextEdit, we're able to replace the selected text with the translated text. So I can switch this to English right here within the document. In the Language and Region System Preference pane, we can now download translation languages for offline use. Currently, when executing these translations, the work is being done online via a server. If this Mac wasn't connected to the internet, the translation features won't work. But if a language is downloaded here, translation to or from it will work while the Mac is offline. We can even activate on-device mode, which will prevent the Mac from using online translation services and force it to use only the downloaded languages. If I attempt a translation with this activated and no language is downloaded, I'm going to be asked to download the required languages. So if you find yourself using this feature while your Mac is offline, or it might have limited internet connection, downloading the languages you'll be using is a good idea. The Shortcuts app started out on iOS for iPhone and iPad, but has now made its way to the Mac here in macOS Monterey. Shortcuts are automations that can run repetitive tasks in order to save you time. Here in my Shortcuts app, I already have some shortcuts saved because these have synced from my iOS devices. That option can be turned off in Shortcut Preferences here. Each step within a shortcut is known as an action. Some will have very few actions, like this Text Last Image shortcut. Others, like Photo Grid or Calculate Tip, will have several actions to run in order to complete the shortcut. Double-click to open a shortcut and view each action within it. Click on the play button here to run the shortcut from this window. So I could quickly calculate a tip, which I probably won't ever need to do here on my Mac. This shortcut is better to have on my iPhone or Apple Watch. So let's go over to the gallery to find some shortcuts better suited for the Mac. In here we can browse a variety of pre-made shortcuts that can be downloaded. Double-click to view the details of each. And click the Add button to download the shortcut to your All Shortcuts folder. When I download the How Many Days Until shortcut, as I do that, I'm going to need to enter the day that I'm counting down to. I'm going to enter Christmas Day. Now open the shortcut and we can see the actions needed to make it work. Click the play button to run it. We are able to edit these actions. So if I'd rather count down to December 28th, I can just edit the specified date. I could also duplicate this How Many Days Until shortcut and then enter a different date and end up with two separate shortcuts. On the right side of the window, we have the action library, which will let us add actions into a shortcut or build a new shortcut from scratch, which we'll do shortly. Next to that is the Shortcut Details tab. In here, we're able to set shortcuts to appear up in the menu bar or exist as a quick action in the Finder. We can even make a keyboard shortcut for a shortcut. For this one, I'll make it available up in my menu bar and use the shortcut Command-Control-C to run it right from the Finder whenever I want. So that gives me a shortcuts icon up in my menu bar. Click and the countdown shortcut appears. I can also use the keyboard shortcut that I set up to run the countdown. Now let's create a new shortcut from scratch. I often need to create a splash screen graphic that has a play button overlaid on it for certain lessons. Normally, getting this done would involve taking a screenshot of the first frame of the video, bringing it into Pixelmator Pro, applying a play button overlay, then resizing the image, and finally saving it out for the web. With the correct combination of actions, I will be able to create a shortcut that will nearly do all of that for me. All these actions can be found within the Actions library here. I'll be using a few that are built into every Mac automatically, and a couple that will only appear if Pixelmator Pro is installed on the Mac. I need to start with the Get Selected Files in Finder action that will use the screenshot that I take of the initial movie frame. Next, I need to grab the Pixelmator Pro overlay action. Within this action, I then need to choose the image to overlay on the file selected above. I have that already saved in a folder called Graphics. Click Show More, and I can tell Pixelmator how to size and position the overlaid image. I'm going to have it put in the lower right, make it 350 by 350, and I'll lower the opacity a little. Next, I'll want to add the resize action for Pixelmator Pro, and I'll set it to be 2200 pixels wide and automatic height. Next, I'll add the Optimize Image for Web action and set the format to JPEG. Finally, I need to add a Save action and have that ask me where to save the resulting file. Up at the top, I'll name this Play Button shortcut, and I'll have it pinned to my menu bar. Now I can quit the Shortcuts app and select the screenshot that I already have on my desktop. Notice that no play button is overlaid on this yet. So with that selected, I need to activate the shortcut from the menu bar and let it run. Once it's complete, I'll just need to choose where to save the resulting image. I'll also put it on my desktop. And here it is, saved with the play button now overlaid. That saved me several repetitive steps and probably a couple minutes. We're able to, of course, come back into the Shortcuts app and tweak the actions to adjust the size or location of the overlay. The next time I run it, the results will reflect those adjustments. So that's an overview of the Mac Shortcuts app and what we can do with it. It can be a little confusing at first trying to figure out what actions to use when you're building shortcuts from scratch. So I'd try using some of the shortcuts provided in the gallery first, and then as you explore those, making your own will become easier. Universal Control was added with macOS Monterey 12.3 and iOS 15.4 in early spring of 2022. It allows us to use one Mac to control another iPad or another Mac with the same input device and keyboard. So in this instance, I'll be able to control this iPad with the trackpad and keyboard here on the MacBook Pro. Before showing off what Universal Control can do, let's go over some requirements. Here's the current list of compatible Macs and iPads. For Universal Control to work, you'll need 2 or more of these devices or newer ones. The devices also need to be logged into the same Apple ID, which we can see here. Both Wi-Fi and Bluetooth need to be activated on both devices, and App Handoff needs to be turned on. Handoff can be found in the General Preference pane on a Mac or in General Settings on an iPad. So with the iPad nearby, I'm ready to activate Universal Control. If I move my cursor to the right edge of the Mac's display, it's going to automatically move over to the iPad. Notice on the iPad, the cursor is not an arrow, but a circle. Click to launch an app. And within any text field, I can now use the MacBook Pro's keyboard to type. Notice that I can pinch to zoom in or out on the trackpad, and it will work on the iPad display. Use a 4-finger swipe up to jump into the app switcher on the iPad. If I launch Files, I'm able to click and drag to select a few image files here, and then I can just drag and drop those over to the Mac. I can drop these into a folder or into an app on the Mac. We're also able to drag and drop from the Mac to a folder or compatible app on the iPad. From Display Preferences, click the Universal Control button for a few options. First, we can uncheck this box to disable Universal Control. When you upgrade to macOS Monterey 12.3, this is going to be automatically turned on. The next checkboxes will let us automatically connect to a nearby Mac or iPad. I found that leaving these on is the best option, Activating universal control manually has been glitchy in my experience. Universal control is different than Sidecar, which allows us to add an iPad as a second display for a Mac. That can be done from the Add Display menu down here. With the iPad now extending the display of this Mac, its interface is removed, and I'm able to view the Mac's dock and move windows over to the iPad's display. We can quickly jump back into Universal Control from the Add Display menu by linking the keyboard and mouse to the TMU iPad. So Universal Control lets us use the iPad and its apps with the Mac's keyboard and trackpad. Sidecar simply extends the Mac's display. For more about using Sidecar, as well as Mac display preferences, take a look at the macOS Core Concepts tutorial. Here in the Tidbits lesson, we're going to cover a few more minor features that don't require their own lesson. First, we have the recording indicator, which will appear in the menu bar whenever the Mac's screen is being recorded or if the built-in microphone or webcam is in use. Currently, I'm recording my screen for this lesson using an app called ScreenFlow. Notice that we have an orange dot next to the Control Center menu bar item here. Click and the app doing the recording is listed here in Control Center. If I now open the Voice Memos app and start a recording, it's going to be added to that list as well. So this is just here to remind you of when a recording is occurring on your Mac. Next, we have low power mode, which is in the battery or energy saver system preference pane. If you need to stretch the current battery charge of your Mac as far as possible, activating low power mode will help. Turning it on here in the battery section will apply low power mode only when your Mac is unplugged. This is going to make the screen a little dimmer and it will lower the clock speed of the processor, saving power. We can also activate low power mode when the Mac is plugged in. This might not make a lot of sense, but if you're recording audio, it can be pretty helpful, as it can prevent the fans in the Mac from coming on and creating a background hiss in the recording. Over in the Finder sidebar, we now have access to an iCloud shared folder. This will display files and folders that you have shared with others or that others have shared with you using iCloud. Any file or folder that's saved in your iCloud drive can be shared with other iCloud users from right here in the Finder. Now, all of those shared files are quickly accessible here in the sidebar. This basically works as a smart folder for shared iCloud files and folders. If you don't see the iCloud shared folder in your sidebar, it can be activated from the Finder preferences. For more on how all this works, take a look at the full iCloud tutorial. In the display section of Accessibility System Preferences, we're now able to assign custom colors to our trackpad or mouse pointer. So maybe I can see a red and black pointer more easily than I can the default black and white pointer. So if I can see a red pointer more easily, I could then assign that as the fill color using the Mac color picker that comes up. Maybe I would then switch the pointer outline color to black. Notice here that we can also activate the useful option to shake the pointer to temporarily enlarge it, making it easier to quickly locate, or we can adjust the overall pointer size with this slider. If you're ready to sell, trade in, or give away your Mac, but need to remove all your information and data first, It's now much easier to do that in macOS Monterey and later. From System Preferences and the System Preferences menu here, we now have an Erase All Content and Settings option. Using this will remove all the data for all the user accounts on this Mac. So this needs to be done from an administrator account. On the next step, we'll get a warning to back up the contents of the Mac before resetting it, because doing this is going to delete everything from it. Next, we can see exactly all that's going to be removed from the Mac, including the other user accounts. Notice that there are no options to keep some of these items or a certain user account. This is an all or nothing process. Click Continue, and I'll get signed out of my iCloud account on this Mac, which I don't actually want to do on this machine. So let's go to a video of that occurring on a different MacBook Pro. In the next step, another warning is presented, and the process of what's going to happen is also described. Basically, everything is erased except for the base installation of macOS. So the Mac's going to restart as if it's brand new out of the box. Click the red Erase All Content and Settings button, and then after a few minutes and a restart, the Hello screen of the Mac will appear, and from here I'm going to be able to set this up as a new Mac or transfer contents from another Mac to this one using Migration Assistant, which is an app located in the utility folders of applications. If you're planning to sell or trade in the Mac, just hold down the power button to turn it off. I'll be trading in the Mac seen in this video using Gazelle. They provide a quick and easy process along with quick cash for trading in old devices, whether that's a Mac, iPhone, iPad, or other older device.